All right, well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's session here. We are talking about innovations and education pathways during COVID. And these are innovations that will move beyond this time too. And that's really what the presenters are going to share with you here today, how they made some adjustments. You know, we've all been met with many different challenges that change every single moment. It seems like some days seem a bit more manageable, but have had to really innovate, get creative, adapt our programs. And these presenters will very much share that with you and also talk about how they'll move forward with that. And again, you know, we have a lot of expertise here that's going to be shared with you, but we would also love to hear from you. If there's innovations that you've done in your education pathway program or kind of hear what the presenters share today, would love to hear that in the chat. Please feel free also throughout to be throwing questions and comments in the chat too. We'll be monitoring that as we go, and we'll have some questions, time for questions in between each presenter, but can also pause and you know, provide more detail on something as needed if you all need that too. So please feel free to use the chat heavily throughout this time. And before I turn it over to our presenters, we have representatives from Plainfield District 202 and also from Carbondale Community High School, and they'll introduce themselves and tell you about their region a bit more. But I just want to start us off with some background about, you know, where these presenters and where their communities are coming from as part of this larger initiative and larger cohort called Scaling Education Pathways Illinois, or Seppie. And myself, I keep kind of forgetting to introduce myself too. I have all these presenters coming out and I get all excited to turn to them. And then I'm like, right, I never told people who I am. But I'm Heather Penzak. I'm a policy and program manager here with Education System Center out of Northern Illinois University. And we do a lot of work at both a state and a community level. And Seppie is a really great example of that, taking state frameworks and then having supporting how they play out within communities to support specifically an education pathway in those communities. I myself am a former high school science teacher and have been supporting a lot of work here in the education space with our model programs of study and supporting my colleague Juan Jose also within the Seppie Collaborative. And we just launched a new round of Seppie Collaboratives too, some of whom I think are on this call right now. So welcome. And so just really briefly here before we turn over to the presenters, and there is going to be a session on this actually tomorrow that I'll give you some information on. But in terms of a state framework, we have our College and Career Pathway Endorsement Framework, which spells out different components for a student to complete as part of their high school experience to receive an endorsement on their transcript. And major components of that are their individual plan. How are we really thinking through their college planning, their post-secondary planning? How are they understanding their career goals? It also has professional learning. So what are the type of work-based learning experiences that they're doing? How are they engaging in career exploration, having an internship type experience, what's called a career development experience, and also engaging in those team-based challenges, those project-based learning. How are students also engaging in career-focused instructional courses within that pathway? So, you know, they have their core academics, and you can see a component of this too is academic readiness, so that they're placing in a college level coursework in their post-secondary path. But how are they also engaging in those career courses within high school? And a focus there on early college credit as well. So in the education pathway, how are they taking some of those courses that are going to transfer over as they continue on with their education programs? And so in terms of the endorsement areas, there's 7 different endorsement areas, and the education pathway lives within the endorsement area of human and public services. So a student would get a human and public services kind of stamp on their transcript, and that would be within the education pathway. Again, if they were completing all those endorsements of the framework. And this was a very high level overview of the framework. Like I said, there's going to be more detail and diving into that framework during the plenary tomorrow. And I know there's a lot of folks on this line too who are very familiar with that framework. And so just some origins of Seppie. So back in, gosh, what was this, like 2019? I'm trying to think when we had that fall conference, we were all in person and gathering together and initially launched the different collaboratives here. But we had a lot of different committees, statewide committees, and also private philanthropy, state agency partners, right, really came together and wanted to pilot this to address the teacher shortage. What we see in communities is that, you know, it can be difficult to hire teachers in certain departments or certain programs or generally, right? And how are we also making sure that the students within our community, we're supporting them to be educators and to come back to that community and teach within their community later. And so really wanted to launch this to build education pathway systems that will begin in high school and they'll continue on through into that initial teacher placement. And I'll explain that here in just a moment. And some of you all might have already benefited from or received or applied towards, right? ISB has expanded on that pilot and is funding enhanced CTE education programs. And so part of the beauty about Seppie and about initiatives like this is really having community collaboratives be intentional about the partners that they have within the collaborative, but also really supporting all collaboratives to come together and share learnings with one another from across the state. But within these Seppie collaboratives, so again, as you'll hear from Plainfield and Carbondale, they have these partners. So they have a school district or a collaboration of school districts that have at least 2 high schools participating in an education pathway program. There's at least one community college or 4-year institution that's working with them to offer that early college credit, dual credit, enrollment coursework, again, associated with education pathway career focused courses. But they also have at least one accredited teacher preparation program where students are likely to continue their preparation and their path as an educator post high school. Now, students might choose a different teacher prep program right after high school, but these collaboratives have created a space, a full path for students to be able to graduate high school, go to the teacher prep program aligned with that collaborative, and then come back to the school. And so again, with those partners and within the collaborative, there's also these pieces, right? So like I just mentioned, they're transitioning students to that post-secondary institution that has a college of education, is able to certify that student. But what these collaboratives are also doing is providing placement and initial career supports for students. So, they're helping them maybe like in the summertime, students can come back while they're pursuing their degree and support work in the summer. Maybe they can do some co-teaching throughout. Even as they come back and would want to do their student teaching, that would be a place where these collaborators would be supportive and say, we have a space for you. We will have a cooperating teacher. We'll support you to have this experience and really grapple with what it means to teach in this community, in this school, and then hopefully return to be a teacher here. And there's also a lot of work here to be done within these collaboratives and have been really intentional. And you'll hear from these presenters about how do you promote the educator profession? There's a lot of misconceptions. There's a lot of buzz out there about what a teacher is, what an educator is, what we all do. And it's something to really start to talk about very intentionally in high school and help students understand, here is your role as an educator, here's the profession, like here's what that looks like, and to kind of grapple with those perspectives and maybe misconceptions that might be out there. But also, how are we ensuring that we have diverse students entering the pool and interested in education? As we know too, and there's different data points out here about that, our teachers don't necessarily always reflect the diversity that's within the school or within the community, right? And so how do we make sure that we're promoting the profession, we're engaging more students, and in that we're utilizing data and we're looking at the success of students, what students are coming in, and how we're using that to intentionally support and enhance our pathway programs. And in the education pathway, I love teachers, people love teachers, right? There's a lot of work here to develop some serious currency for what it means to get a college and career pathway endorsement in the education pathway. And so again, these are going to be spoken about in more detail tomorrow, and I have some information here on the next slide. But Golden Apple, for example, they're really offering, if a student gets that endorsement in the education pathway program, they're going to be a finalist in their process, and students can receive scholarships up to $2, which is a huge benefit for students to pursue the path as an educator. Northern Illinois University is one of our first universities to sign on and say that they will also offer different scholarship opportunities, different incentives for student supports and engagement when they come on campus and pursue their path as an educator. And so there's some announcements and fact sheets in there for that. And again, this is a very high level overview because tomorrow we have a deep dive on this. And so hope that you all can attend and you can hear about this. Juan Jose will speak in more detail about the Seppie program and the pathway system, the endorsement framework. And then we also have representatives from Golden Apple who will talk about the currency they've developed and the value that they believe the endorsement and the Seppie program has for students in the education pathway. And I'm going to put the link here to this presentation in the chat in just a moment, because there's also a lot of different resources, again, to give you some background on these different frameworks and Seppie and some pieces there for you all. But I said I would take 10 minutes and I took exactly 10 minutes because I really want to leave the time here for our presenters. So I will transition over now to our Plainfield team here, and I will kick you all off to introduce yourselves.
All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Heather, for the opportunity to discuss our education pathway in Plainfield. My name is Phil Pakowski. I'm the Associate Principal at Plainfield South High School. With me today are Kate Morris, the Associate Principal at Plainfield East, and Steve Lamberti. He is our Humanities Division Chair at Plainfield Central High School.
And Steve is also an instructor for the course, so he can offer some additional insight beyond what Phil and I can offer because of his.
All right, so a little bit about District 202, because we have a lot of districts in the initiative. We are a very large school district in Plainfield. We are actually the 5th largest school district in the state of Illinois. We have 26,000 students. Our demographics are there on the slide. We will have 30 buildings starting in the fall of 2021. We go pre-K through 12th grade. So we have a wide variety of opportunities for student teachers and teachers in our district. Being a unit district, there are many opportunities for hiring on a regular basis. Our initiative is with the 4 high schools. We do have 4 high schools in the district with approximately 2,000 to 2,400 students in each high school. And the district employs approximately 1,600 teachers. So we started back in 2019 in the pathway process with the Seppie grants that were given out. And well, I shouldn't say given out. We applied for the Seppie grant in 2019 and we're lucky to receive it. With the 4 high schools in our district, we met the criteria. Our partnerships are with the University of St. Francis in Joliet. That is our 4-year partner, and they do have a certified education program at the University of St. Francis. We also partnered with the community-based organization, the Greater Joliet Area YMCA. With them, we have a program called Teen Achievers that is in 2 of our 4 buildings right now, but we'll get into that. Kate will talk about that in a little bit later on. Part of the reason the grant was very interesting to us is if you saw on the first slide, our teaching staff is not representative of our student population. We have a diverse student population in our district. And this was a great opportunity to potentially grow our own teachers from students in the district that were interested in education and to help diversify our teaching staff to be more reflective of our student population as well. Our pathway helps our future educators in a variety of ways. One is we have some components in place to help identify potential future teachers in our district. We support our students throughout the process while they are with us at the high school, and then we also support them after they leave us. We do have a reciprocal agreement with the University of St. Francis. Students who receive the endorsement would get priority enrollment in the College of Education. And then St. Francis loves to call us and tell us when they have student teachers ready for our district. So with 30 different schools, like I said, pre-K through 12, there's a lot of opportunities for student teachers to come back into the district in whatever area they're interested in teaching. What we have also done is when a student teacher completes their process, we will guarantee them an opportunity to at least have an interview for any open positions that we have in the district, which is also another way to support our students as they go. When Mr. Lamberti starts talking about the class, you'll hear more about the mentoring part of it that is built into our dual credit course with the University of St. Francis. We also have opportunities for training and conferences for our students that we hope when things get back, we can start sending students back to conferences. And then as I mentioned, there's that opportunity to actually be employed by the district once they complete the pathway as well. So with that, I believe I will turn it over to Steve and he'll talk about our Exploring the Teaching Profession course.
Thanks, Phil. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for having us. I get to talk about the fun stuff, not that the other stuff isn't fun, but I get to talk about that in-classroom stuff and all the things that we really enjoy about our profession. As Kate and Phil mentioned, I'm the Humanities Division Chair. And so I'm a social studies guy and I work with the English department. But one of the greatest things that's happened over the last couple of years is the opportunity to teach the exploration of the teaching profession course. Our work And I don't have a magic pill. I don't think anybody does. If you do, let me know. We can talk. But I think what really truly happened, and the main goal and the main, I guess the whole focus of what I want to talk about is, a lot of times in teaching, we start with the what, and then we get into the how, and then we end with the why. And this year has really shifted in a great way to starting with the why, and working with students that want to be educators, really digging into the why. And everything that we did with our observations, with our curriculum, with removing barriers, focused on the why, then got into some of the what, and then allows for the how to happen when they do move on to those college courses, when they do get into those practicums and some of those methods courses in student teaching. So, I'm gonna say why a lot. I feel like there's an old Olympic reference, the old Nancy Kerrigan, why, right? I'm gonna say why a lot, but that's the focus of what we try to do. So on the left side there, a lot of the in-class type of adjustments, positive adjustments we made. I think the biggest key was having focused observations for our future teachers. Meaning, if we're talking about diverse learning styles, we could literally set it up where, all right, U6 are going to go to an ELL classroom. U5 are going to go to that, fundamental English class. U4 are going to go to that co-taught US history class. Even the PE class, as we know, that's so unique, that's such a unique setting. So very, very focused and frequent observations. Sometimes they were shorter than normal. Instead of a student driving to the middle school and staying there for an hour and a half, 2 hours, we were able to get in there for a half an hour, 45 minutes. Sometimes even a quick 10-minute, hey, the AP Psych teacher is doing a tremendous transition today. And so we could even do some live viewing. Sitting in class, sometimes I was surprised our students with, we're going over something and, hey, all right, everybody, I'm going to go ahead. We're going to jump into, Mr. P's class. And we're going to watch him, do a transition. So again, those focused observations on the why. Why is this happening? Why is this occurring? Why are teachers focusing on these things? So really, really successful changes to the in-classroom atmosphere there. Obviously, the original kind of observation, sending students to schools, is awesome. It's phenomenal. Kids love it. That doesn't mean we want to see that go away, but continuously using this more the focused observation, sending kids to places where we can literally, see exactly what's going on with what we're talking about, and then come back and deal with the why. As you can see on the left side there, the student-centered curriculum. Obviously, we all want our curriculum to be student-centered, but really focusing on those thinking like a teacher, thinking about the why. We had a vocabulary journal of over 100+ words. That's the what and the how, right? But I didn't want to focus on that. We didn't want to make that be the overriding curriculum. We wanted that student-centered and thinking like a teacher to be the focus. And it's really, a lot of successes with that. And again, any questions you guys have or anything you want to know, obviously put them in the chat, or, you can shoot me an email and we can talk, open book here. I could talk about this stuff for hours. But shifting over to the out of class stuff, obviously, we want kids in front of us. I mean, we all do, right? But we were able to remove a lot of barriers through some of the technological successes that we had, or the travel barrier, the student schedule. Obviously you have athletes and you have band members and you have kids that are working. I think I had the entire drama club in my class 2 years ago. Talk about drama, right? And so there's always this, I got play practice. Okay, all right. But we obviously were able to remove a lot of those barriers by doing some of those in-class, more frequent, quick observations. We also were able to really help our own diverse learners in our classroom. We talk about teaching diverse learners. I get educational goosebumps talking about this, but I had a student who would drive to Lurie's Children's Hospital in the morning, and she'd log on to our classroom in the afternoon and from her hospital bed. Now, clearly there's a lot going on there, and what an awesome girl she is, and she's gonna be a great teacher, but we were able to help our own diverse learners through a lot of the adjustments we made. And so a lot of barriers were removed based on the successes we had. A lot of quick instantaneous feedback, which was huge for our students. Not only is there a paper trail, through Google Classroom and through a lot of the things that we're doing, but also quick instantaneous feedback from those cooperating teachers, from those teachers that those students were jumping into their Zoom classrooms and, that ease of communication, the ease of asking questions of those cooperating teachers, fluid, consistent connections being made, tons of successes there. And then the bottom right there, Kate will talk a little bit more on the kind of the recruitment side of this, but we saw a ton of efficiency outside of class, and we really want to use our students to peer support, match up with some of those freshmen or sophomores that might want to get into that teaching career, invite those younger students into the education world or the exploration of the teaching profession atmosphere, starting, education clubs. Obviously I know you guys, a lot of you heard of Educators Rising, using some of those resources earlier on. We're in the infancy stages. This is only the second year we've taught this class. And so really trying to dig further and just continuously connect kids to the education world. So I probably missed some things I wanted to talk about, but there's a lot there. If you have questions, you can shoot me an email, we can chat about it later. But I am actually, next slide, Heather, there's a couple things there with just some of the engagement type things we did in our class. Lots of interviews. We would bring in deans, we bring in administrators. And again, that assistant superintendent doesn't have to drive across town to come to school. We can jump onto a Zoom call and have that person right there for a meeting. Now, I'm sure they would drive across town to meet with our kids, but it's, again, a lot easier, a lot more efficient. We have deans in the building. We had SPED administrators in the, interviewing, having our students interview them. Again, those classroom observations we talked about. And then, of course, again, the why, putting our students in that position to create a transition. Why? Create a lesson for a group of diverse learners. Why? Why did you do that? Why is that happening? Why did you make those choices as a teacher? And then utilizing some of those real life resources and documents that we all use to positively impact students. So, all right, that's all I have right this point. So we're going to move on to Kate. She's going to talk about kind of the next steps.
Good morning, everybody. Okay, so a huge part of this program being successful is the recruitment component. So especially getting started, we had to make sure that students not only knew about it, knew that we were doing it, but understood what it was and the benefits of that. So one of the programs that a few of the high schools in the district have partnered with is the Teen Achievers program. You can click on that link, Heather, if you don't mind, and then when we're done, bring me back to this slide. But you can see that the Teen Achievers program, we partnered with the YMCA, and it really provides an opportunity for us to discuss some of these leadership opportunities in terms of teaching with our students. So it's weekly conversations, guest speakers, college visits, even like job fairs, those types of things. Talks about tips in terms of time management, note taking, what comes next after college. Like you can see all of these things are listed. I don't necessarily need to read them all to you, but it's just a great platform for us to talk with kids about different ways to help themselves prepare for success. Is this only for Ed Pathway students? No, good question. But we do use this to also talk about the Pathway program with kids. So as we're talking about like, what do you think you want to do as they're going to these career fairs, those kids that mention that they might want to go into teaching or they really like working with kids, that's when then we start to talk with them about this Pathway program. So this is relatively new, and I know that they work with this at South. I'm at Plainfield East, and we were planning on starting this at our school this year, but then the COVID. Yeah, so this is not necessarily an elective course. It's more of like a club, like an additional opportunity for students to gain some insight into our programs. In terms of a pathway sequence, we are working on creating like a more visual format of our pathway sequence. But Heather, if you click on that link, you can kind of see some of the courses that are available to students in order to meet those requirements in order to receive the pathway. So we really spend freshman year, it's hard to recruit students in 8th grade, right? Because students in 8th grade, they don't necessarily know what they want to be. They want to be an astronaut. They want to be, you know, a ballerina. I don't know. But as we move into like when they're freshmen here, we start talking with them about the future. So it's sophomore year that we really start to try to help them navigate, okay, what do you think you want to do in terms of when you get into college? What do you want to focus on? What are you thinking about for a major? And a lot of kids at sophomore year, they don't know. So then it's really, what do you enjoy doing? What classes do you like to take? What do you do in your free time? We really rely on our counseling department to help us with these one-on-one conversations. So I know every school is different, but the way that we do it in our district is like they have meetings with one-on-one meetings with all students every year. And it's kind of a touch base in terms of what classes they want to take and where they're headed. So we really rely on them for that. So as sophomores, for students that are interested in the educational pathway, or they think they might want to be a teacher, we really encourage them to take our child development classes. Those are open to sophomores. We have multiple child development classes that are available, and get them starting to thinking about how kids' minds work and even working with kids. We offer like preschool programs where child development students can work with like actual kids in the community a couple times a week and start to, you know, see if that's something that they enjoy doing. As they become juniors and seniors, there's a lot more opportunities for electives that we've kind of thought work with education. Okay, so sociology, psychology, we have a lot of different AP classes available. We have a lot of different dual credit classes available. We offer dual credit classes in history, English, math, science, CTE. So with Joliet Junior College, they've offered a lot of opportunities for our kids through those. And then we, like Phil said, partnered with St. Francis to offer this Exploring the Teaching Profession class, which is required. And it's kind of the capstone class. So students need to have 6 full college credits in order to receive the pathway endorsement. And they can get those through dual credit, through AP. And then that last class that they take senior year, it's a semester class, is that Exploring the Teaching Profession class that is more of like a really soft, light internship, hands-on type course. I see there's a lot of questions in the chat here. Sorry, Phil, are you kind of handling those? Great. Okay, Heather, if you could go back. One of the things that we started doing, and especially with the pandemic, because we didn't have access to our students in person. So what we did prior to 2020 was we would have students in Exploring the Teaching Profession go into other classes and talk about the class with students, go into study halls, go into the College Career Center and some different places that kids are located throughout the day and talk to them about the class. Well, we couldn't do that with the pandemic last year. So we created a recruitment video that we kind of sent out to all the students via their school email. And then also we posted it on websites and sent it to teachers, asked them to share. So but I think kids like watching videos, and they like to watch videos not with me, but with their peers, right? With their friends, with other students that they know. Some things like Phil was talking about the grant, like we're planning on getting some like flair per se, like some t-shirts made that kids can kind of be walking around like with a cute saying on the back about teaching and like, what is that shirt? What does that mean? So just different types of things to try to get kids excited. I mean, we are all in this field. I've been in the field for almost 20 years and I love it. And I know sometimes, especially nowadays, teaching doesn't always get the best rap. So it's like, we got to get kids back to being excited and understanding like the benefits and the importance of this position. So I think having kids talk about how great the class is and what they got out of the class is a lot more beneficial than having me or Steve or Phil talk to them about that. We are not using the Ed Pathway classes in summer school right now. I mean, that's a great idea. That's just not something right now that we're utilizing. So yeah, like in terms of recruitment, those are some different things that we do. Like Steve mentioned, we have been doing this for not too long. So those ideas are continuing to develop. And once we're back in a more traditional setting, I'm hoping that we have more opportunities to share with kids how great the class is and how important the pathway can be to help them. In terms of moving forward and reflection, like Steve was talking about, obviously, ideally, we want to get kids in actual classrooms, working with teachers and other students in the flesh, right? But I think we did learn that there are some great benefits to doing things virtually. So we plan on using that feature for more of those focused observations, even when you're going over like the importance of seating arrangements. Like, let's go pop into a couple people's classes and see, like, you know, these people have it arranged this way, these people have it arranged this way, like, what's the benefit, you know, those types of things. Different icebreakers, different transitions. They can be just quick 5-minute observations, and then they're followed up with discussion to get kids talking about those issues. They can also view recorded segments of lessons, again, saving like that time with transportation and issues that kids have with schedules, and then continue to use the virtual platforms for interviews, question and answer sessions with other teachers, building administrators, district administrators, and even district stakeholders. Like, I've had some of our ETP kids wanted to be part of like a parent meeting, a fly on the wall, and depending on what the topic is, you know, and if you clear it with that parent, like that might be a great experience for them. Or to like sit in with something with a counselor, like working with a freshman student, like how does that work, you know, because like, you know, I was a classroom teacher for 10 years, and that's a different job than being a division chair. And that's a different job than being an associate principal, and then a principal, and then an assistant superintendent. So I think kids, even though this is about teaching, it's important for them to see that like in the education profession, there's counselors, there's deans, there's all different types of positions, you know, and they have opportunities to do all of those things. So kind of picking up where we left off, that would be Phil.
I knew I'd forget something. I got one thing to add. Sorry, Kate and Phil. One of the things, and obviously this is all about students, and we're trying to get students on that career pathway, but one of the things I forgot to mention was the awesome positive climate that it creates just within your own building amongst the teachers. I've got, you know, I've been in my building lucky enough for 15 plus years, so I've got a good connection with a lot of people. And I've got kind of a catalog of 20 to 25 teachers that we use for these observations. And it grows every year because people want to be a part of it. They love helping kids. They love, you know, oh, well, Lamberti, I got an activity that I love. If you get your kids in here, let's watch this. And so not only are we helping our students, but there is that increasing that positivity, that climate that is just, it obviously grows because we all know we're here to help kids. And so I knew I would forget something, didn't want to leave that out. So it also brings, and some of the newer teachers, the younger teachers, they do things way better than me. So, you know, I'd rather have them, those new teachers, part of some of this. And it's a really good, positive climate improver in a building, not only for kids, but also for teachers that are involved. So there we go. You're up, Phil.
All right, thank you. So I'll wrap this up quickly because I think we're over time. So things we're going to try and get back to were the things that we lost due to COVID and remote learning. And it's really a lot of the in-person things. So like I said, we wanted to send our kids to the Educator Rising competitions during the Educator Rising committees. We're going to try and get our mentoring program up and going with a mentoring program for teachers of color. We have some future Teacher of America clubs in our buildings that we're going to try and expand along with the Teen Achievers program, and then continue to grow our relationships. We're looking into starting a nursing pathway as well with the local schools. And again, trying to find ways that we can support our kids through scholarships and other opportunities within our pathways. So thank you again for having us to talk about this. And I believe Carbondale is probably ready to go. So we'll stop talking. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all, Plainfield team. I know it's like you start talking and there's so many things you want to share because you know what it's taken to accomplish this, and you want to share that with other folks so they can, you know, emulate that and fit them in their own space. But appreciate you all for sharing, and Please continue if you all have questions in the chat. I'm going to move us into our next presentation here to keep us moving, but if you have questions, put them in there. Our presenters can continue to answer those. And if we have time to at the end, we can have some large group discussion too. But you've heard Educators Rising a few different times, and so excited to transition over here to Rasheeda and Amira to talk you through Carbondale Community High School and some innovations and things they've done in their space.
All right. Hello and good morning, everyone. Great job, Plainfield, for setting the platform. It was so exciting to hear your information. I'm sitting here taking notes. I'm looking back in the classroom at Amira like, hey, you see that? Did you hear that? Like, why we didn't wear our t-shirts today? So we're just having a blast with this opportunity here. So thank you guys so very much. Here's a little bit about myself. I hate talking about myself, to be honest with you. And when she said a bio, I was like, oh man, I coached Division I women's basketball for 10 years and they want to know everything about your life and all. I was like, I don't feel like doing that. So just a little bit about myself. I am here at Carbondale Community High School. I am starting my 5th year here at Carbondale and my 3rd year as an Ed Rising club sponsor. We're going to switch gears because we don't quite have our classroom. We don't have a classroom in regards to the curriculum of teaching the educational pathway. We actually are using our club to gear us into that way of our pathway. We have started, as mentioned with Plainfield, we are in our 3rd year of the club, Educators Rising, and we just completed our 1st semester of our education class curriculum. This past fall, we taught Human Growth and Development, which is a dual credit course that is offered through John A. Logan, which is our junior college here in our area, as well as SIU Carbondale. So we have a couple dual credit classes that we just started along our pathway. And this upcoming fall, we are going to be adding our diversity class, Education and Diversity, which is also a dual credit course in connection with John A. Logan, our junior college here, as well as with SIU, our university. And we have our teaching methods course that we will also be adding this upcoming fall semester. So we're basically operating in 2 different areas, hopefully to bring those 2 into one with the classroom and then the club. But our club has been our most successful element. And so where you have the steam rolling in one area, you want to keep that rolling and then try to get the other things jumped on the board and we can keep going with that. So here we go. Teaching in the pandemic. Wow, here we go. Let's have fun with it, right? So as you can see, I like to have fun. I tell my kids, we're going to play hard, we're going to work hard, but if it's not fun for me, it's probably not fun for you. And life is too short for us not to have fun. So let's enjoy it, okay? All right, Heather, next slide. So what I kind of provided for us is just basically the things that we have had to adjust from the classroom as well as into a club standpoint. So we all understand this. I say the old way, I say it's the normal way. It's kind of the way that we all knew education to be when we got into education. You know, we wanted to work with kids. We were used to, you know, being in a classroom setting, usually with the paper and the pencils. And we looked at discipline issues and problems, classroom management. That's just what teaching was when we all got into the teaching profession. So I just put a couple of things, you know, the paper and pencil, classroom sizes, usually 12 to 24. That's what we see here at CCHS. You're able to see the student's face, you know, walking through the door, you're greeting them, they're in the chairs, you're good. Our traditional schedule, you know, sometimes it can be 7:30. I teach an early bird class, so I do start teaching at 7:30, but, you know, 8 to 3, usually we're out. Discipline issues, that just comes with in the classroom, I guess. You know, no matter what kind of classroom discipline or structure you have, you're gonna have that one student that want to go to sleep or whatever problems and issues that they're bringing into the classroom from home life, didn't get enough rest, a little cranky, you know, but we have to deal with those things. In the classroom, we get some participation, if not a whole bunch. You know, it's exciting. You know, we get the hands-on projects, you're moving around, you're grouping them up. You know, now COVID can't even be 6 feet from each other, you know, so all those different things that we have to kind of change into. So next slide, please. All right, so this is my new way of teaching. And I'm pretty sure this is everyone's, okay? Now we are so technology-based, all right? Here at CCHS, we are a 1 school district. So I looked at, when you guys came forth, I was like, oh my goodness, they have a South, a North, a Central. They got 3 different schools in that one district. Like, wow. So I'm just excited about it. I was talking to Amira. I was like, I couldn't imagine. Did you hear that? 22,000. I'm like, that's more students than we have at SIU right now, you know? So I was just like, wow, this is cool information to find out. But we have about 1,000, close to like 980 students in our one district, our one school here, the high school. And we are currently one-to-one with all of our students. One of the things that we did with the grants and the financial, the finances that were available for us is that we purchased Chromebooks for all of our students. And so now we're dealing with technology. And I've been teaching for 10 years. I can save myself with technology, but I would not consider myself to be the technology guru, okay? So I definitely need some help, definitely need training in that situation. But even with our students who don't have internet access at home, who, you know, we're getting jetpacks to send home to them to have connections. And then if you have 2, 3, 4 siblings in the house, you know, that strength of that signal has now just went down. So we all know what we're dealing with. Classroom, here at CCHS, we are currently working on a hybrid schedule. So we know we have about 200 students in the building. The other 700 or whatever has decided to stay remote. So our classrooms, we look to, I think my 3rd hour, I may have 1 student. The rest of my classes, I may have no more than 8 students just to kind of keep the distance between them. So we go from that full classroom and excitement to like, do we teach to the screen or do we teach to the students in the classroom? So those challenges that we currently have right now as teachers, we see here, our district has not made a policy of making it required for our students to have on their screens. Like we all see each other's face this morning. It's excited to see smiles and see eyes. You're like, yeah. Okay, so sorry guys. So the challenge is, you know, it kind of gets disheartening as a teacher when you look at the screen and it's black and you see names and initials on there, and it's, you know, you can't really get that eye contact that if we're in the classroom, you can kind of gauge based upon that look on that kid's face, if they're paying attention, if they're understanding what you're talking about. So now we're like, uh-oh, we're out here in La La Land. Are you guys getting it? Are you paying attention? And so that's a struggle for me. I can say that as a teacher, that's a struggle for me in the new way of teaching, because I don't really know if my students are really fully understanding what I'm saying. Of course, their Chromebooks are muted. Half the times they don't even respond when you talk to them, and you just feel so defeated, but you got to keep going on. Other thing that we had to do in a new teaching is teaching platforms. Here at CCHS, we have 2 different platforms. We are a Microsoft 365 school. So some teachers chose to use that platform. Others have chose to use Google. And as I mentioned before, I didn't really know much about either one of them. So I really just had to choose one and learn it myself as I went through the semester. Here at CCHS, we have changed our school schedule, our daily schedule. So we start at 8 a.m. unless there is an early bird, which starts at 7:30. And we are finished with teacher instruction at 12:45 p.m. every day. And so we have the whole afternoon to meet one-on-one with the students. So where we lost that hands-on, we still built in some time in that day that we can reach out to our students and ask them questions. That's if and when we can get a hold of them. So those are just things that we deal with. And then we went from some participation here in the classroom to when you get them on the screen, sometimes you get little to no participation. So that's just what we're all dealing with. And then how are we adjusting to those things? All right, I'm ready, Heather. So as I mentioned, our pathway is through our club, Educators Rising. As I mentioned, we're in our 3rd year of Educators Rising. Dr. Nancy Munchink from SIU came to myself and said, hey, Rasheeda, you want to start this club? This is one of the things that we're looking to do to keep our teachers here in the Southern Illinois area. How can we, you know, breed them? How can we keep them here? What can we do? And I was like, definitely. I love education. I'm a student. You know, as a teacher, I'm a student. I love learning. I love doing new things. Let's go with it. So, and then we brought up Seppie, and we actually are partnered with 6 different high schools in our area. So we have Carterville, Vienna, DuQuoin, ourselves here in Carbondale, Cobden, and they're going to get mad at me because I can't think of the other ones right now. But so we have a network basically down here in Southern Illinois of different schools that we can collaborate with. Everyone is at different starting places and at different places of development So it is helpful to help each other along and to bounce ideas off of each other as well. So what did Educators Rising look like before the pandemic? Well, before the pandemic, we were actually going out and visiting our schools. We have four or five feeder schools that come from different districts into Carbondale Community High School. So what we've done is we've sent our students back out into those feeder schools to get their feet wet, to be connected with a liaison or a cooperative teacher is what we would say if they were in college. And we spend the day at the school the whole day. And so beforehand, what would happen is I would contact the school principal, say, hey, this is our club. We need to get out. We want to make this connection. I would send a list of my students. My students would give me their desired class age that they thought they wanted to work with. And I said thought, because sometimes they go there and say, oh no, Miss Love, I do not want to do kindergarten. Oh no, Miss Love, I thought I wanted third grade. No, it is not third grade. And so it's a great opportunity for them to kind of figure out early what area they think they most likely are going to be interested in. And so I send that list out to our local grade schools, and they partner our members with a particular teacher. So for us, it's kind of like a field trip day, because Educators Rising is not a class, it's a club. So what we'll do is we'll get the little school bus, we'll drive over to the different school that we're going to. The principal will usually meet us and kind of go through the rules and regulations, expectations, and those particular things. And then we will disperse our students to their particular teacher. We usually would try to have them matched up with a teacher in the morning and then a teacher in the afternoon, just to get different experiences. Now, we will go back to that school again, and then sometimes they can pick and choose, like, well, I like this classroom, or can I still try to explore and through a different classroom as well? And we'll go from there. So I can talk a lot about that, but I'm not, because I want to get Amira, the student, who's the most important one here. Fundraisers, Educators Rising, we raise money for our club. We used to do concession stands at the basketball games and different things around in the community just to get money in, because usually when we came from a visit, because I made the students eat lunch with the students at the school, and who wants to eat the school lunch, right? Or the fourth grader, I would bribe them when they came back to school, and I'll feed them pizza. So we'll get pizza and pop, and we'll talk about and recap the day and any suggestions. We'll write our thank you cards to the teacher and principal and the cafeteria staff at that time as well. So those were things that we did when we came back from our visits. And the money that we raised at the concession stands, which they had to work, is the money that we would use for that. That also brought us t-shirts and other things that the students felt like they wanted to use that money for that would be beneficial. We also got involved with our community outreach. We would go to PTO meetings for the parents to meet in different groups. We would watch their smaller children if they had to bring them in. Our Head Start here in the area will go and read in their program. Our school has a fall festival where we set up different booths and display our organization and those type of things. So we'll get involved with that. Trunk or treat, we'll get out in the parking lot, get candy in our trucks, and let the community come around and do those things. Here at CCHS, we do have a multicultural festival. We will get a booth or a table at the multicultural festival and just talk about what Educators Rising is. We'll have different gifts that we'll give out and to display, but those are ways for us to reach out in the community and ways for us to recruit and to get our name out there as well. All right, last thing, thank you. All right, so what does Educators Rising look like during a pandemic for us, okay? So as we went through this pandemic, we know that many of our students, faculty and staff are dealing with social and emotional situations like, oh gosh, what's going on? Just adjusting to it. Some are doing well, some are struggling for us. So what we currently do is we do monthly newsletters. Our monthly newsletters are just informational things about what Educators Rising is doing and a little bit more about our members of Educators Rising. For me, it helps them feel relevant. It makes them feel that they're important and that we're still a club and that we're still functioning. With them trying to manage technology, them trying to manage their classrooms and the classroom loads and assignments, they get very overwhelmed as well as the members. So a couple of things that we've also done is we sent out teacher appreciation notes. So we just card stock, we make a little note for the teachers and say, hey, we see your hard work and what you're doing. And we put them in their mailboxes. We also did this for our feeder schools as well. So the different districts that are connected to CCHS, we went and took little cards to them, said, hey, we appreciate what you're doing. Keep up the good work and go from there. For our particular school, we created a bracelet, like a little wristband bracelet that you can put on here. And we purchased this out of our fundraising money. CCH colors are black and white, and we have an accent of red. So what we created was CCHS Terriers. That's our mascot. And then on the back of it, we just told them to be strong. Just a word of encouragement to be strong during this crazy time that we're focusing with right now. And so we gave these to all 988 of our students as well, and to our faculty and staff here at CCHS. Another thing that we did with our teacher appreciation, we got them little tokens of appreciation. I think I went to Oriental Trade or Amazon or something. And it's just like a little high five, and it says a token of appreciation on one side, and thank you for everything that you do. And we just place them in their mailboxes. I thought this was so great for our students to be able to see the need of our community during this time of the pandemic. And so they are a great group of kids to work with. And it's so fun to see us transition and to understand that teaching is not just textbook, it's just not grading, it's just not those particular things, but it's also being able to see the need. And if you can't meet that need, you're probably not going to be able to get them to work for you, because sometimes that need is so great that they can't even focus on your schoolwork because they have an issue right then and there to kind of deal with, and because they're living it right now. And so they came up with the idea like, Ms. Love, I think this is something that we need. I think this is something cool that we could do. And I said, well, let's get to it and let's do it. Last thing, words of encouragement. We just created on some cardstock, little encouraging words. This one says, be the reason someone smiles today. We sent this out, it was like 32 different sayings. And for each class, freshmen, green, sophomores, yellow, juniors, red, seniors, blue, we gave them their class school color and just kind of wrote a personal note for their class, you know, and we mailed these out to them. We did this along with like a terrier sticker. We sent pencils out to them with the terrier paws on it and stuff, and a couple other little notes. And like I said, our students got the wristbands as well. And so that's something that our students are currently doing. So we are working on our February newsletter to get out this week, and then getting ready for our March newsletter, which is going to be about spring break. And they're looking to do one more appreciation after we come back from spring break to kind of wrap those things up, and then look forward to what we are going to do for next year. So that's a little bit about us.
Thank you guys for having me. My name is Amira Ruiz, and I'm a junior here at CCHS, and I'm a part of the Educators Rising Club. I started my sophomore year. Obviously, I feel like for me, the sophomore year of doing the club was more fun because we got to actually go to classrooms and help teach a class and be in a relationship with kids, which is obviously kind of harder to do through Zoom, like you guys probably know since you teach all day. But like being able to go to those classrooms and be with the kids was a really great experience for me, because like I just have this one memory of working with the kid and helping him read something that he had to keep rereading because he wasn't getting it right. And like we sat in a corner and like we read together, and then he got it, and then he was like so happy, and it like made me so happy because like I got to help someone. So it's just like that was a really great experience, going to different schools, seeing different classrooms, and seeing how different teachers went about their stuff, and being able to create that relationship with the younger kids, which was really sweet. Also, we went to like SIU, I think, for what was that? It was a rally day. Yeah, it was like some rally, and we got to go see students at SIU who were in the education program and talk to us about Golden Apple, stuff like that. And then we got to go to just different classes that they like provide at SIU and see how different things go there. So that was like great for us to like as teenagers to see what the opportunities are in college and around us. And so that was really great. And then we also went on the news and did like a short little thing for like a local news channel, I believe, and just talked about why we want to be educators and stuff like that. So I want to teach Spanish, or I'm thinking of going into the Peace Corps and going into the education field within that. Obviously, I'm still a junior, so I have some time to think about it. but I know that whatever I want to do, I want it to involve Spanish and teaching. And so this club has been great, working with Miss Love, trying to figure out like what the different opportunities are for me and figuring out like what age group I really like to deal with, and stuff like that. Let's see. Thank you.
Amira, can I ask you a question? I love hearing from a student.
Yeah.
So if there was a component to like the program that you would like to see implemented or added, like what would something be that we could all maybe think about in terms of like something that our kids need that maybe is less conventional that we're not doing?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of hard. Like, I definitely love that we're doing newsletters because we are a small club and it's not like one of our bigger clubs, and like not as many people know about our club in our school. So I think that the newsletters and stuff like that have been a great way to like kind of like send out positivity and still get something done. Me and Miss Love, when you guys showed your video, you're like, oh my God, we totally need to do a video like that. Because I think like I don't know, we don't necessarily need to grow, but I feel like it's important for people to know like what we do as a club and all that type of stuff. So I don't know, it's hard doing it online because I feel like for a lot of the students, it's just kind of harder to like try to help a classroom through Zoom because, you know, it's hard for teachers already to like get their students to participate. And then it seems, in my opinion, it might be more of like a burden to try to get us to help too, because everything on Zoom, it can sometimes be harder. So I don't know, it's kind of like a tricky thing, just trying to figure out like how we can do it because most of the club was still based on the interaction with each other and being face to face. So I don't really know if that answers your question, but I feel like it's just kind of like a work in progress and trying to figure out the best way that we can still be involved and then keep our social distancing and all that type of stuff. So.
Thank you all. I know we're at 11:30 here, but a big thanks again to all of our presenters. Really appreciate you sharing what you're doing in your education pathways and knowing that what you're doing in this pathway is adaptable and applicable to so many pathways. You even heard Phil kind of speak about their movement now in that health science pathway. And so just thank you all again for this. It's, you know, teachers are near and dear to my heart always, and I'm always excited about what's being done to support students, to think more intentionally about being a teacher. Like, to Rasheeda's point about, you know, they go to a kindergarten classroom and they're like, nope. Like, that's a good thing to find out early rather than you're graduating college and now you're certified to teach kindergarten and then you're teaching it and you're like, this is not what I want to do, but you've made such an investment in it. So just appreciate you all so much. So thankful for you and for what you do for students. And thank you all again for joining today. And a big shout out definitely to Amira, our student, for joining today. It's always great to hear from you and your experience.